one of the things that you see a lot is that kind of logarithmic curve, right? So like volume, I think is a good example, right? Like if you're doing no volume and you add more, you'll get a big increase, and you might get a big increase for more volume again, but then eventually those big increases go away, and you just kind of like are riding the line, creating a lot of fatigue and a lot of stress, and all those kinds of things that you don't need. And so like really the more volume dial is really personal, right? It's like what kind of shape are you in, and how much volume have you been doing, and was it already too much, and
Is
all those kinds of
is
things.
the volume you're doing right now doing fine?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Are you getting
are
stronger
you getting
already?
stronger at an appropriate level?
Uh
Like
huh.
that's what I mean. That's what a lot of it is, right? Like powerlifting, or what if it's a football player? Like, all right, I went from 315 to a 325 pound squat this month. If I just crank it up, maybe I'll double that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's just
Or you'll go backwards.
right.
uh
Like that's yeah, you're gonna get some sort of, but that's kind of how we're built, right?
huh.
If you're in the sport of something like a powerlifting or football or even racing, like you're obviously a competitive person.
Uh huh.
So sometimes we just think more, like you said, more is better, but
Yeah.
not not necessarily.
Yeah.
But if you really look at like really deep into like where these all like kind of like came from to begin with, is, and we mentioned that book Bigger, Faster, Stronger. For the longest period of time, we assumed that if you want to get stronger, you need to build muscles, and if you want to build muscles, you need volume. And we kind of like went with it for decades before we realized that that wasn't the case. Like, of course, if you get bigger muscles, you're gonna get stronger, but
Right.
you can't get stronger without necessarily building bigger muscle first. You can first develop your neuromuscular potential and then eventually add muscle mass to it. And I feel like that original perspective of like the strength of your muscle goes up with an increase in muscle cross-sectional area. We all bought into it, and volume and hypertrophy became like the common denominator for all strength and conditioning programs. Once we start moving away from that, and that comes with a better understanding of complex things like the way the motor cortex works and the neuromuscular system works, which we only developed in the last maybe 10, 15 years when it comes to research, where we really understood like all these nuances about rate of force development and what the brain does, what the muscles are doing, and how muscle sites really impact performance. Nowadays, we know that yes, you can grow bigger muscles, but you have to worry on other things first and take care of the most important things first, which is neuromuscular adaptation. And that requires very little volume, but it requires a heck lot of intensity. And you need to lift big weights. And if they're not big, they better move fast because otherwise they're doing nothing in the weight room.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, we have this conversation all the time that the weight room's basically good for two things. We can change tissues and we can learn a skill, right? And so, like you're saying, that strength piece is like, whichever you can get it out of both, right? But like, if you want to be really great at your sport, you have to spend time on the skill piece of it, driving those strength up and doing the heavy stuff. And it's not that there's not a point to try to get bigger, right? So like my originally was track and field, and they didn't really care so much how big you are, but like doing powerlifting, my off season is very much about getting bigger, right? And then the in season is about getting ready for doing the heavy stuff and getting ready for, So yeah, it is fun to see those kinds of changes. Like when I was young, I was a big believer that if it's more than 5 reps, it's cardio and it has no place in the program. And I did that for a long time, and then switched to do a volume block and was like, oh my god, this thing's amazing. I should do this every once in a while.
But your example is great. I mean, ultimately, maybe I'm biased on that, but we all come from either, when it comes to strength coaching at least, a background or a passion for powerlifting, weightlifting, or bodybuilding, in one way or the other, because otherwise we wouldn't be so addicted to weight training in general.
Right.
And those are great. Any of those would be a great place to start learning about strength training, but then you have to deviate from the extreme needs of those athletes that compete in a sport that is dominated by strength and barbells, and the needs of other athletes where strength is a component of what they do, very important one, like absolutely important one, uh, but it serves a whole different purpose when it comes to performance. So there's a shift that needs to happen at some point, and the sooner it happens, the sooner you start focusing on intensity the right way, exercise selection the right way. Your volume will come down, but your intensity will be significantly higher.